Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Emily Seiner, filling in for Khalil at Galona, and this is Nashville. Choosing whether and where to go to college and then figuring out how to pay for it can feel like some of the biggest decisions that high school seniors have to make as they start their lives as adults. For most four-year colleges, students have to give an answer by May 1st. I remember the month of April as a high school senior being very stressful. It's hard to do all this work to apply and then wait to hear back if you got in or not. And it was the first time I had serious conversations with my parents about our finances and what we could actually afford for my future. So there's a lot in the mix. Shae Camardo is a senior at MLK Magnet High School in Nashville, and Eli Sheahen is a senior at Valor College Prep, and they're here to tell us about what it's like now for local high schoolers. Shae and Eli, welcome to This Is Nashville.
Hi, thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are about 4 weeks out from what's often known as College Decision Day, May 1st. Shae, have you decided where you want to go?
I have not.
Okay, cool. And Eli, what about you?
Not fully. I'm close, but no.
But you haven't clicked the button yet?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to talk more about what this year has looked like. But first, I want to ask, how did you decide that going to college at all was the right step for you?
Yeah. Honestly, it's just kind of what my family's done. Most of my cousins and aunts and uncles and just my immediate family have gone to college. That looks different for a lot of family members. But also being a part of a school, like a college prep school, I think they encourage that. They also encourage other post-secondary options, but college is kind of it's just kind of like the main one, so that's kind of the one they focus on. They do give help for other options, but I think that's just kind of what I wanted to do, especially with my career path that I hope to end up going into.
Which is what?
I hope to be a landscape architect or some sort of architect designer. Which it's really hard to do without a college degree.
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of what has been most helpful, or like will be the most helpful.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think reiterating his thoughts, I go to MLK, which is very competitive and focused on like the post-secondary education and just college. And although they give us other options, due to the competitive nature of the school, college is, for me at least, like seen as one of the only options. And with my family, all of them, or most of them, did go to college. So, and with my sister, it really like helped guide me through this process. And with her going to more as prestigious institutions and stuff, it helped me strive to become a better student and also just like appreciate a love for learning. So really, for me at least, that like college was like the only option for me.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the details. Shae, how many schools did you apply for?
I applied to 7 schools.
Okay. What was the hardest part of the application process?
I think narrowing down the schools was pretty hard. And also having the motivation to apply to a bunch of schools. Because I initially set out to apply to, I think, about 19 schools.
Wow.
But I did just center myself and realize, like, some of the schools that these, like, are not the options I really want, and that certain schools were the ones that I really wanted, and I wanted to strive for that, so.
Yeah. And Eli, I understand that you applied for a few more?
Yeah, so I applied to about 12.
Okay. About 12.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it was 12. I think there was like
lost count.
one or few on there that I just applied to because they were like free and in state, but then the application, like, I ended up withdrawing my application just because I had other options. Yeah.
That seems like a lot of work.
It was. I think it was pretty stressful, especially balancing. So I balanced all of those. This sounds not humble. I don't know. I'm saying it was stressful to balance all of those colleges as well as like scholarship applications and AP classes and regular classes. But I think, the hardest part was just like trying to basically decide where I'm going to go for 4 years, and then that determines my future. So I think it was stressful because of, I mean, obviously the quantity, but also like the weight of the decision that I kind of had to make. And I'm getting that back in like junior year. I'm like, oh, like, where do you think about college? And like, I don't know. I mean, I have this list of 15 places or 20 places that thinking about applying to, and then trying to actually apply to them on top of so many other things. It's just like balancing that, as like what Shae said.
It's very different, like actually applying to schools and just like thinking about applying to schools.
Yeah. How do you stay, or have you been able to stay centered in that process? Because that is a big decision to make.
Yeah. I think so. I've balanced other stuff on top of that, but I know, I mean, I procrastinate a little bit and ended up applying 20 minutes before the deadline was due on a couple of them, which is crazy. And it's just like, I think a lot of times that's how I work best, but like that did get me pretty stressed out and anxious about some sort of things. And like, I don't know, seeing if they're actually going to accept me. Because it's again, one thing to think about it. It's also one thing to apply, but then also one thing to actually get the decisions back.
Yeah. So. What about you, Shae? And like keeping the perspective on, you know, it's a big decision, but you don't want to be stressed out about that all year. How do you do that?
I've certainly had days where I've stressed myself out many times, but right now I'm just trying to take it as it comes and, you know, weigh out all of my options, especially with the financial and like monetary things, you know, that's a big consideration for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just briefly ask Eli, you have a twin brother, right? So you are in a unique perspective of kind of having someone else to do this with. Could you guys talk about applying to the same school?
Okay, so I have a twin brother. We're fraternal. We are close in proximity, I like to say. And we are close in general as well. But that didn't really, I mean, when people meet us, they don't think we're twins. We look different, and also we just act super different. And I think that we just wanted different things in college. So we actually applied to 0 of the same places. He applied to fewer schools than me, but he was honestly just looking for different options. Whereas like based on what he wanted to do, I think he was looking at engineering and then PT, but he was looking at smaller liberal arts colleges and Christian colleges in state, and then also just kind of closer to home or where he would know someone at. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was looking to branch out, hoping that I would know a few people there, but looking at more like destinations and stuff, like different cities or different majors and programs that I'd be interested in. So we ended up applying to none of the same ones. His top 2 options right now are Lipscomb and Harding University in Arkansas. That's where my older brother goes as well, in Harding.
Yeah. There's so many factors that go into that. Speaking of figuring out where you want to go to school, so I'm currently watching the early aughts TV classic Gilmore Girls, and the whole premise of the show is that Rory wants to go to Harvard, and all of her and her mom's decisions are based around that. And I feel like growing up in that time period, if you were college bound, the prestige of the college was very important. Like Harvard was the goal. Is that still the case, or has prestige lessened since that time period?
I think at MLK, at least, since it's a very competitive environment, there is this like kind of shadow of like prestige, you know, like it kind of encompasses like a lot of people's like unconscious decisions, I think, rather than like we all say like, oh, it doesn't really matter, like, but I have like seen like a bunch of the college decisions come out, and people have come to me and said like, oh, all these people are going to like Brown and like Yale and everything, and it's like, I wish I applied to more prestigious schools, you know? So I don't know. I think it definitely, you know, feeds on people's like insecurity, kind of like the prestige of the environment. But like the statistics like recently of how like for at least employment, like it doesn't really matter which college you go to. So I think like realistically, people have been thinking more about that, like with financial stuff and everything.
Yeah.
And debt.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Emily Seiner. We're talking this hour about the college decision process and what that looks like in 2024. We can't talk about college decisions without talking about money. Eli, how did the moment of finding out that you were accepted at certain schools compared to the moment of finding out what the financial aid package was like?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like you see a lot in like TV shows or like TikToks and stuff where people are getting accepted, and like that's like the main thing. Like, oh, you got accepted to your dream school. Oh, you can go. Like you just read like you're accepted or something and it's like, that's amazing. Or even denied and you're like really upset. For me, I think it was really different. I applied to so many schools because of my family's financial situation, as well as just the programs and stuff I wanted to do. So I was really, to be honest, I was apprehensive when I got my acceptance letters back or my waitlist or denials, because I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I would so want to go here, but I can't. Like, I don't know if I can afford it. I can't afford it, or I don't know. Here, they're giving me merit aid, but also I don't know about my financial aid, like university grants and stuff from the FAFSA, especially with the FAFSA delays this year, which have been pretty crazy and not amazing. I still don't know my financial aid estimates from a few of my colleges.
So I know that there is a delay. I've like heard about it, but what does that mean? What does that look like for you guys?
Usually it comes out in
It used to come out in October. Yeah.
And this year it wasn't fully released until like January.
Mm-hmm. To even apply for financial aid?
To even submit your financial aid, like your FAFSA, which is like, it's a necessary thing to do for college applications, for most of them. So like that is just, it's been really hard. It pushes back decisions. It pushes back like from the college. It also pushes back our decisions on which college we can go to, which ones we can afford. I've just been getting so many emails about like, make sure to submit your FAFSA, which usually you'd be getting those back in October.
Wow.
And as decision day is May 1st, FAFSA is getting processed, I think, like right about now.
Yeah.
And will lead to, I think, some like hasty decisions, and like, you don't have as much time to think it over, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just like walking me through what it looks like now, there's no longer an envelope that you get in the mail. This is all online, right? You're like
all online.
Opening up a page.
Some of them, they don't even email you. There were a few colleges where I like just checked on my application portal one day and they were like, here's your acceptance letter.
It's so anticlimactic.
It is anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Sometimes they'll give you like little packages in the mail, but those usually come a lot later and not from all of them. I haven't gotten all of those yet. So the digital stuff is a little weird.
Yeah, that is. I'm almost hesitant to ask, but like, what are the sticker prices of the schools that you guys are applying to? What's the range?
Crazy.
Crazy.
I can, honestly, I applied to so many because it was just like I had these safety schools that are cheaper, but also safety because I can get in, and then safety because they'll give me money. So there's these different aspects of that. Anywhere from $40,000 a year to $85,000.
Wow.
90, like sticker prices. I mean, that's not just tuition. That's the COA, the cost of attendance. That's including housing, food, sometimes supplies, loans, fees. Which is crazy.
What about you, Shae?
My two top choices, the sticker prices are $100,000 and $90,000.
Crazy.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And so have you had to have conversations with your parents about like how much your family can afford or how much student debt you're willing to take on or things like that?
Yeah, so I saw my sister go through this process as well. She went to Van Dien Oberlin, which are both very like expensive institutions. And she's had many battles with like the financial aid officers. It's not easy to get financial aid, especially when you appeal. And the whole like need-based aid, which is what Vanderbilt does, it's not always totally guaranteed. So, I mean, it says it's 100%, but it really differs from each school. And I think my parents, like seeing my sister go through the process, they were pretty wary of like the schools that I applied to. So, I mean, these were my top schools, but they were saying that like if I didn't get a good financial aid package, then I probably couldn't go to these schools. So,
wow, yeah. Have you had serious conversations with your parents before about money and finances, or was this the impetus for that?
I think this was the impetus for that, really, yeah.
What was that like?
I think I really had like no idea of my family's like financial situation before my sister went to college and before I just started the process. And I think it really made me aware of how empathetic they are and how like helpful they are, like in the sense of like how much they're helping my sister and just how much they are willing to give. And I've just been very appreciative of that. But I still have to have some conversations with my parents, just like receiving financial aid now and like the FAFSA delay. So there are conversations that are imminent.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for both of you, where are you in the process of choosing between schools, waiting for aid? Like
Sure.
what's the current status?
Yeah. So when I first got a call about doing this interview on here, I had no clue. I was expecting to not know until late April. Later that day, I ended up getting my financial aid package back from George Washington University, which is like my top option. So that was like a big deal because it was like they gave me a lot of aid. So I'm a lot closer than I was less than a week ago, which is crazy to me because I think a while ago I would have thought like I would have decided by now because like usually you decide, I don't know, a lot of people are deciding in early spring or something like that. But with all the FAFSA delays, I was just like, I mean, I'm getting these decisions back. I don't know what I can afford. FAFSA is saying that they won't be back until mid-February and then mid-March and then mid-April. And it was kind of crazy. I'm a lot closer to deciding. I still have to tour, but I think that is probably where I'll end up going. So,
That's great. Shae, what about you?
I'm in between Bard College and NYU. So before I got the call for the episode, or when I got the call for the episode, I did not hear back from NYU yet, and it's probably my dream school actually. So I did get in, but I quickly realized that I did not fill out the CSS profile correctly, which is another like financial estimate similar to FAFSA. So I had to call the financial aid office and go through this whole process. So right now I'm on the exceptions list being considered for financial aid.
Oh, wow.
So I might not even be guaranteed financial aid, which is like, it's $90,000, but it's like $100,000 with like the books and supplies and everything. So it's insane.
Well, I wish you both the best of luck. Shae and Eli, thank you so much for joining us and giving us an action shot of this process. We have to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how high schools and parents can help their kids navigate this process better. We'll be right back. This is Nashville.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for prep and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Emily Seiner, filling in for Khalil Ekluna, and this is Nashville. Today, we're talking about how the month of April is a pretty high-stakes time for high school students deciding where to go to college. This is the month when they're hearing back from all the schools they applied to, if they haven't already, and then finalizing their plans. Joining us now is Janet Weller, Director of College Counseling at Harpeth Hall in Nashville. Janet's been guiding high school students through the college application process for 23 years. Welcome, Janet.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We got to hear just now from a couple of high school seniors, but you have a front row seat to a much broader set of kids. Take me through a typical conversation that you might be having with students in the month of April.
In the month of April, the majority of my senior students are in the decision-making process. They've received all of their admission results by this point in time. Last week was a big week with a lot of final decisions coming in from a handful of colleges. And so right now they're in either the finalizing process where they're making their choice and deposit and celebrating and getting ready to tell peers and family about their choice, or they're parsing those decisions still. For many of our students, they're comparing pros and cons of those schools. They're talking to their mentors and counselors and parents to get feedback. And in many cases, they're comparing the financial aid offers of those colleges or scholarship offers of those colleges, which is something that's prolonging the process at this point because there's been, I heard that the students were talking about this just a moment ago, but there's been a delay in the release of FAFSA information, free application for federal student aid to colleges. And for a great many families, the cost of college is going to be a piece of that decision-making process. So for my seniors, they're juggling a little bit right now.
Yeah. So it seems like your role is part life coach, part financial consultant, like part therapist.
I guess it is a little bit of all of those things. We think of our role as being guidance and advocacy. We're helping the students to navigate this process in its various different branches and arms. So looking at their academic choices, looking at the environmental fit of a college for them, looking at that financial piece as well. So we also rely on other resources outside of our office and lean on our college partners. And we at Harpeth Hall work with College Money Method, which is a group that helps with financial advice. And so it's not all just us. We are in partnership with families, with students, and with other college partners.
Yeah, it's my understanding that college is actually a lot more competitive these days because a lot of colleges aren't requiring testing anymore, so people can apply to more schools. How do you set expectations early on for students and parents?
Yeah, well, selectivity, just to back up, selectivity has a couple of different components. A college is selective because of its academic requirements. But selectivity is also so much a function of the popularity of a school. And so if application numbers go up, like you said, with the test optional movement, that has been a driver of the increase in the number of applications some colleges are seeing. But when application numbers increase, colleges admit fewer students. When they admit fewer students, the more selective they appear. The more selective they appear, that makes them more desirable. And so the cycle continues. How we advise around that is really balance. We do hope that our students will reach and strive for schools that may be more selective or riskier for them, where the outcome is more uncertain. But then we really strive to have them balance that list with colleges where they'll be top of the heap, maybe a scholarship candidate, the first choice of their college professor for an internship opportunity or a research opportunity. And so we're helping them to shape a list ultimately to apply to that will have both risk and reward.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge that like across Tennessee, only about half of high school graduates go to college. And I saw on the Harpeth Hall website that all of your graduates go to college. I also grew up in a family and a social class and culture where going to college was very much the norm. And on one hand, it was nice to have that path set for me, but there was also so much pressure around it. Like all of the conversations my senior year were about, where am I applying? Where are my friends applying? Where are they getting in? How do you counsel students through the pressure of the process?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think there are so many sources of that pressure too. I think for some students, they may have pressure that they view as coming from an external source. And for many students, it's their own internal drive that it's creating that pressure. I think that encouraging them to not compare their process to another student's process is really at the core of that. For us at Harpeth Hall, we actually so our mascot is the honey bear. And so we have a saying, bears don't compare. and we really drive that home, the notion that comparison is the thief of joy. And this really can be a joyful process. We center gratitude quite a lot in our conversations with students about their college search and application process. And in order to have that joy, you need to be somewhat conservative in thinking about your process as your own, and not letting too many of those external voices influence how your decision-making unfolds.
What can parents do to help that process?
If you model an open mind, and if you model clear thinking around the process, your child will follow suit. I think that the mistake that a lot of parents make in this process is in feeling as though their child does not have agency yet, and wanting, and it comes from such a natural place. This is what we do as parents, right? Like, we want to help our students in every way, but being able to take a step back and let the student be independent in this process as much as it is possible to be, that can really be helpful.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Emily Seiner. We're talking this hour about the college decision process. This is the month when most colleges expect people to make decisions. So let's bring in a parent to this conversation. Jonathan Sheahen is the dad of Eli, who we heard from earlier in the hour. You have 2 twin boys heading off to college this fall. You have a kid in college already. You have a kid who's younger. So you're seeing the gamut here. Where do you fall on the spectrum of college is nice but not necessary to, it's not a matter of whether you're going, but where you're going?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Like that is the question.
Yeah.
That it's, I think our role as parents is to help our children discover who they are, why they're here on this earth, and then to find partners who can link arms with us and them so they can shepherd their hearts towards whatever's next for them. And so in considering that, college can certainly be a good partner in helping kids find out who they are and what their direction, what their purpose is. And so, I think, my wife and I went to college. I think that's always just been an unspoken, that's the next step. If they would have chosen to do something different, we would have been great with that.
How have you been trying to help Eli and his brother navigate this process?
Yeah. I mean, you heard Eli, and Eli's, applied to 12 schools, and yes, he says it's been stressful and there's anxiety there. And I think, Eli's 18, and as was already said, that he has agency within this process. And I think sometimes he's like, I'm doing this all on my own. And then when he's got an hour and a half before the deadline, he walks into my room and says, Dad, I need help. And the answer to that question is always yes, I will help you. And so, we really want to help them through the process without dictating it or over-influencing where we think they should go, but more in conversation and support.
Yeah. As he's been getting answers back from colleges, how does that feel to you?
Well, I mean, for the colleges who've rejected him, I've also unsubscribed. So, as a dad, certainly every college should accept my child and invest all of their resources to make sure that he's there. I think the other thing that's just as a part of it is we trust the process. In that, I understand colleges all have their own sort of admissions process. I'm just saying we trust the process of, hey, if he was not accepted to a school, he was not intended to go to that school. Maybe that school saw that he wouldn't be a good fit and he doesn't know that. And so now that we're looking at not 12 schools or 15 schools, he's just looking at a handful of schools. That actually becomes a much easier decision to begin to make. And then that's where we are in kind of closer conversation with Eli on where he thinks is a good fit.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny when you said you unsubscribed. My mom, who I'm sure is listening to this conversation, is still mad at the school that didn't accept me.
Sure.
I need to bring the conversation around to money again, because wow, is it expensive this year? And was that surprising to you? I mean, I guess you went through this a few years ago, but when you started this with your older child, was that sticker price surprising to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's different. Like, I think every parent is probably saying, wait, what happened? College was $10,000, not $90,000. Like, when did it go up so much? And you don't start paying attention until it's right in front of you. Typically sophomore, junior year, you begin to realize what the actual price is. I think there's sticker price for cost of attendance. I think there's also the price that he'll have to pay. And so with our oldest, we really looked at, like, what's the bottom line? And out of just the bottom line, what it costs, school fit, where it is, like, which one makes most sense? And for him, that bottom line was a big deal. It's also important for both Eli and his twin brother, Cooper. Like, there are some schools that they say and we say, we just can't afford that. It's too much of a stretch. It's actually not worth the investment of $50,000 a year. And by the way, it'll go up each year. You walk out at the end of the 4 years with a significant amount of debt that you may not pay back for 30 years. I don't think that makes sense. And so that's where a lot of that conversation has landed, is like, not just what's affordable, but also what's affordable and what's a good fit for you.
Yeah. Jenna, in your conversations with families about cost and debt, I'm curious what kind of conversations you're hearing about student debt, and has that changed in recent years?
I mean, absolutely. The conversation this year is so very different than it is in many other years because, and I know we've touched on this already earlier in the hour, but the delay in the FAFSA, it means that our conversations right now about college choice for many families is delayed because they're only just now, colleges are only just now receiving that data from from FSA about the family's ability to pay. And so financial aid packages are being prepared now where, in years past, they would already be in the hands of families to make decisions. And so yes, this year the conversation about cost has been a little bit different. But in general, the increasing cost of college is on everyone's minds. I think, college costs, I believe one of the students may have even mentioned this, are going to crest $100,000 at some schools this coming year. And no matter what your family's ability to pay may be, that is a big chunk of money. And so parents, I think, should be upfront with their student about the ability to pay early. Don't let the cost of college be a surprise in the conversation at this point in the process. When they're seniors, when they're deciding. And also, being mindful of the fact that colleges prepare those packages in a lot of different ways, and that there may be other sources that they could look to beyond just the financial aid process, maybe some scholarship opportunities. In balancing a college list, I think the affordability piece is one that is substantial, and that's why I suggest that families bring that piece into the conversation when students begin their search, really, rather than, like I said, rather than letting it be a surprise at this point in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, so for both of you, if you were thinking outside the box about this whole process and crafting a perfect world, what would look different?
Oh, that's a really hard one. In a perfect world, what would the college admission process look like? I always feel like the guiding principle should be equity, and that I don't know what that looks like necessarily. I don't have, I don't have the answer, but I think that if at the heart of the process we try to center equity, making more opportunity for students to be able to take advantage of college, whether that be through, rethinking the cost of college, whether that be, being more transparent about the process of being admitted to college. I'm not exactly sure what it looks like, but I feel like equity is at the heart of it.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, something that we say when we're trying to help them make decisions is we might use the phrase, if money were no object, where would you want to go out of these limited choices? But reality is like they're limited choices. And so money is a major factor in the process. I think it then opens up, if money were no object, it opens up the choices quite a bit and really would allow Eli or his brother Cooper to say, I would love to go to UCLA and do this thing, but I know I can't. And so I don't even entertain my dream because it will never become a reality. And so I think that's a significant barrier.
Yeah. Jonathan, is there anything that you want Eli to really hear from you right now?
Oh man, you trying to make me cry right now on there?
We got tissues somewhere.
Yeah, so I think we even had a conversation with him last night and about college because it can feel stressful. Like you are making the decision that is going to change your life forever. Make the right one. And as parents, there is no wrong decision right now. He can make a decision to go to the school, and he may need to change that decision as a sophomore. That's okay. We love him. He's going to make the right decision. We totally trust God in the process. And that's what I want him to know. Both what we said last night and on air when he re-listens to this.
Jonathan and Janet, thank you so much for being here. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll look ahead a little bit to what happens after you make a college decision and actually start school. Join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Emily Seiner, filling in for Khalil Ekaluna, and this is Nashville. Today we're talking about College Decision Day. Students report that applying to college is one of the most stressful experiences of their high school experience, but we want to talk now about how students can find a way through the pressure. Dr. Shae Turner is the Chief Health Officer for Crisis Text Line. It's a free texting resource that connects users with live crisis counselors. Crisis Text Line is partnered with 14 universities, including Vanderbilt here in town, as well as a number of other partners. Dr. Turner, welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thank you, Emily, for having me on the show.
So it's my understanding that both of your kids are college students right now, too. So you're personally familiar with what we've been talking about today.
I am. They are sophomores and juniors, respectively. My daughter is a sophomore and my son is a junior.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So as we've talked about, high school seniors might be feeling a lot of stress and pressure right now, and they might want to reach out and get some help with that. How do they use Crisis Text Line?
Yes. So Crisis Text Line is an excellent resource for young people. We are a national nonprofit that provides free 24/7 high-quality mental health support and crisis intervention on a text platform. So for all of our digital native teenagers, it's a great platform. We provide it in English and in Spanish, and anyone can text hello, help, ayuda to 741-741 and receive immediate support from a live trained volunteer crisis counselor who's supervised by our mental health professional staff.
Okay, so anyone can text 741-741, and it's free?
Yes, it is free, 24/7.
And then what happens next after that, after they initiate a conversation?
Yes, so once they're connected, the volunteer crisis counselor will work with them to really kind of establish and drill down to what the crisis is in the moment. And we always say a crisis to you is a crisis to us, which means it can be anything from concerns about college applications to bullying, relationships, depression, to actual suicidal ideations. So the volunteer will work closely to kind of figure out what the crisis is in the moment. And they do that through active listening, collaborative problem solving, and ultimately they'll help to de-escalate the situation, taking it from that really hot moment of crisis down to a moment of calm. And then they'll provide some coping strategies and resources. And usually the text conversation can take about 45 minutes to really get to that place where the texter feels comfortable ending the conversation.
That's really cool. In general, what are some good coping strategies that anyone going through this process right now could benefit from?
Right. This is such a stressful time for young people. And I really appreciated hearing Eli and Shae's voices through this process because they have so much going on for them. But some of the key coping strategies that we recommend is really to manage those expectations and like to understand that, college is a small piece of the rest of their lives. Hopefully they have many, many years ahead of them, and that this college process is not a reflection of their worth or potential. And there's so many factors that go into this decision. The other thing we would recommend is to just limit the repetitive checking. So they have these portals, and instead of waiting for that letter, there's the access to the portals and you can go back repeatedly. So really trying to put that on a limited schedule, limiting social comparisons. I thought what Jenna said was really important. Don't compare. It's your process. Everyone will ultimately end up at the right school for them. And again, if it's not the right school, it's not always a final decision, right? If you wind up at a school that is completely not the right fit, there's always options. But when you get into these, students get into these comparison processes, it's really hard to kind of see what's right for you. I would say focus on the present instead of worrying sort of what's coming in the future.
Yeah, that's great. It seems like the service is especially useful for people who maybe don't feel like they can go to their parents or can't access mental health services in the moment. So that's really wonderful to know about. And so then once a student makes their decision about the fall, that moment is also the start of the journey into their college life, which is a big transition itself. So here to join the conversation is RJ Ware. He's a sophomore at MTSU and was just elected student body vice president. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So listening to this conversation today, with the wisdom of having gone through the decision process already and getting through it, what's been coming up for you?
I will say from my experience, the decision and the application process, it was very stressful, but kind of like she said, you will find the school for you. And it's just trusting the process, especially for me. I applied to a lot of different schools, and MTSU just really seemed like the one that was for me. So you kind of have to be laid back in a way. I like to control as many things as I can, but you can't. So kind of having faith in the process will help down the line, and just you will end up at the right place and the right things will happen for you.
How did you feel after you made your decision?
I felt pretty confident. Me and my family went through a pretty exhaustive process, so I had a pretty good idea that MTSU was the school for me financially, socially, academically. So I felt confident. I also was nervous. It was a pretty big transition. I graduated with a class of 27 people at a small private school, and MTSU has 20,000 students, and my freshman class had 6,000 students. So that was a pretty big adjustment, but I was confident but nervous, kind of a mixture of both things.
Yeah, that is a really big change. I mean, what are some of the first steps that you took to feel more comfortable on campus?
Well, over the summer, a lot of schools now, in this day and age with social media and technology, you can join and follow pages that will help you connect with other members of the incoming class. So when you arrive on campus in August, you already know some people. And also, I had a roommate my fall semester, so I reached out to him, connected with him, got to know him, and so that relationship was already off and running. So if I was to give one piece of advice, it would be to use the resources that you have with technology and social media to be able to get one step ahead when you get onto campus, so you don't feel like you're lagging behind, and also to put yourself out there, introduce yourself to people, put yourself outside of your comfort zone. That was something that I had to do, but it really is worth a while. You'll get what you put into it.
So it seems like you started thinking about it over the summer, even before you got to campus.
Yeah, I think in the summertime, you have to take time to relax and to prepare like any summer break that you have. But you really need to be thinking about the upcoming transition. Like I said, it's one of the biggest transitions of your life. I consumed as much information that I could about classes, where things are on campus. So that kind of eased my nerves about it. And so just do whatever you need to do to prepare would be my piece of advice. Prepare and relax.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Emily Seiner. We're talking this hour about the transition from high school to college. RJ, do you have one or two things that you always tell incoming freshmen to keep in mind their first semester? And actually, I guess I'm curious, especially about academics, because you talked about the social piece. Mm-hmm. But the academic transition seems hard too.
Yeah, so I hope this makes sense. It's kind of difficult to explain. I'm not a math person, but with your GPA, those first two semesters, in my opinion, are very crucial, because if you start with a average or bad GPA, it's difficult to raise it in the remaining semesters you have. Instead, if you start really well with a 4.0 or a 3.8 or something like that, or even if you start with a 3.0, if you want to go higher, it's really difficult. So those first two semesters kind of set the foundation, even though it can be difficult because you're still getting acclimated to maybe bigger classes. Professors are very different from teachers in high school. If you don't show up and you don't do the work, they have hundreds of other students to worry about, so that you just kind of, they're not really thinking about you like that. So you kind of have to acclimate to the new environment, like I talked about with the transition. So yeah, I would say that's kind of the academic piece of that.
Yeah. I want to bring Dr. Shae Turner with Crisis Text Line back in. Dr. Turner, in your work and with your own kids, you've had to think a lot about this. What are the best ways that you think students can set themselves up for success in college?
So being very realistic about their time, knowing that, so understanding that, they have class schedules that are going to be different perhaps from their high school class schedules. So understanding that the free time that they have during the day could be used for their homework so that they can stay ahead. The other thing that I think is most important is that they realize that if they need support at any point, they should reach out. And that can be to Crisis Text Line, but to also make sure that they're aware of what the local supports, mental health support, are available on their campus, and to stay ahead of sort of, if they're feeling anxious, if they're feeling down, they don't have to wait until it's a huge crisis. And in fact, to seek out that mental health support early.
Yeah. We have about 90 seconds left. RJ, what is a word of encouragement that you can give to high school seniors who are listening right now, or their parents, and are feeling the pressure?
The first thing off the top of my head is take advantage of the resources that your school gives you. Most schools, I think almost all schools, they really do care about their students, and they have programs and resources that are directed towards you. Take advantage of that. look out for your mental health. Don't put too much on your plate. College is supposed to be fun. You're there to learn, but you're there to have fun as well. So take it easy. Don't put too much on your plate. Just be looking out for your mental health. You have to really be careful with that.
Thank you so much. And just as a reminder, the Crisis Text Line is a free mental health support service that anyone can access by texting HI, HELP, or ADYA to 741-741. You can learn more at crisistextline.org, and we'll also have more information on the This Is Nashville website. Thanks for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Katherine Ceicys. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our fearless and chill board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. Special thanks to Carrie Pagetta and Blessin and Chroma. Listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. You can also call and leave us a message at 615-760-2000. This is Nashville. I'm Emily Seiner. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.